The cold reality. December 19th, 2025. Miami, Florida. Under the blinding lights of the Kaseya Center, a spectacle many called a farce became a cold, violent reality. Jake Paul lay on the floor, his jaw shattered in two places. Above him stood Anthony Joshua, a two-time unified champion who didn't come to win a fight. He came to end an experiment. But the real story isn't the knockout. It's the $184 million purse, the Netflix data mining gold rush, and the tax man who walked away as the only true champion. Today, we're going frame by frame through the destruction of the problem child and the financial fallout that changed sports forever. The Netflix disruption. To understand the money, you have to understand the platform. Boxing has spent decades dying by the $80 pay-per-view model. Netflix changed the game by opening its doors to 280 million global subscribers. The result? A live average viewership of 33 million people. While lower than the Tyson Paul exhibition of 24, it became the most watched sporting event in Netflix history. Netflix reportedly paid a $100 million flat licensing fee to most valuable promotions, plus back-end bonuses for subscriber retention. It wasn't just a fight. It was a data mining operation for Netflix's 2026 sports projects. The financial fallout. The headline number was $184 million, the total prize for the main event. In a shocking move, the split was dead even, $92 million each. For Paul, this was more than double his Mike Tyson payday. For Joshua, it was the largest commission of his life, dwarfing his $60 million Saudi Arabia rematch. But then came the tax man. Because the fight was in Miami, the IRS took a massive 37% federal cut, a $34 million haircut for each fighter. By the time you factor in UK treaties for Joshua and management fees, the gross millions look a lot smaller. The strategy vs. reality, Jake Paul's problem child strategy, was built on calculated risk, picking MMA fighters or older athletes who relied on aggressive styles that favored Paul's heavy right hand. But Joshua was the immovable object. Unlike Paul's previous opponents, Joshua possesses a piston-like jab that controls rhythm and distance. Our frame-by-frame analysis shows that Paul relied on reflexes rather than high-level footwork. When he couldn't outbox Joshua at range, he turned to the clinch, a move that cost him his stamina and eventually the fight. The final blow. By round 5, the experiment was failing. Joshua landed a savage left hook to the liver that folded Paul like a lawn chair. In the 6th, the end arrived. A world-class right hand connected, shattering Paul's jaw in two places. Paul was spitting blood, and his corner was frantic. They knew the jaw was compromised before he even hit the floor. The cliffhanger, Jake's revenge. Anthony Joshua restored his legacy and is now targeting a 2026 mega fight with Tyson Fury. But what about Jake Paul? Many say this is the death of the influencer era, but Paul has survived 6 rounds with a Titan. Reports say Paul has already returned to a liquid diet and an even more intense training regimen. He didn't just lose, he learned the price of entry into the elite. Is Jake's revenge already in motion for 2026? In this game, the only thing you can promise is that it won't be predictable. The day the illusion died, Joshua versus Paul. Full breakdown, December 19th, 2025, Miami, Florida. It was an icy cold reality under the blinding lights of the Kaseya Center, For years, the world called it a farce, a Mickey Mouse era of boxing. But in the 6th round, the problem child finally faced a problem he couldn't solve: a world-class right hand from a 2-time unified heavyweight champion. Jake Paul didn't just lose. He left the ring with a jaw broken in 2 places and an emergency room visit. But while the world is watching the knockout on repeat, the real story, the one that will change sports forever, is hidden in the numbers. Tonight, we're breaking down the $184 million financial fallout, the medical reality of that injury, and why this fight was never what it seemed. The architect of spectacle. To understand the downfall, you have to understand the buildup. Jake Paul didn't just enter boxing. He launched a multi-layered attack on the industry itself. His strategy was simple but brilliant: opponent selection. He picked fighters who were either non-boxers or MMA legends far out of their prime, usually smaller and dependent on styles that favored his heavy hands. This wasn't just playing boxing. He was building a win streak and a brand of controversial audacity. He invested millions in elite trainers like BJ Flores and Julian Love. He developed a legitimate jab and a terrifying overhand right. But as he moved from knocking out NBA stars to facing a 6'6" Olympic gold medalist, the cracks in the foundation began to show. The frame-by-frame destruction. Anthony Joshua didn't go to Miami to win. He went to end the experiment. Let's go frame by frame. Paul's strategy was survival through movement. He stayed on the bicycle, circling left, to avoid Joshua's power. But look at Joshua's eyes. He wasn't frustrated. He was downloading data. By round 3, Paul resorted to clinching. It was a beginner's move that came at a massive cost: fatigue. By the end of the round, Paul was spitting blood. In round 4, Joshua stopped chasing. He planted his lead foot and released a jab cross that sent Paul to the canvas for the first time in his career. Round 6 was the clinical end. Joshua landed the destination right hand. The impact was so severe, it didn't just end the fight. It shattered Paul's jaw in 2 places. The $184 million payday, the taxman round. Now, let's talk about the real winner, the bank accounts. This was the Netflix disruption. By ditching the 80 pay-per-view model and opening the gates to 280 million subscribers, Netflix drew a live viewership of 33 million. The total purse was a staggering $184 million, split right down the middle, $92 million each. For Joshua, this was his largest payday ever, more than his $60 million Saudi Arabia rematch. But then came the taxman. Since the fight was in Florida, the IRS took a 37% federal cut, a $34 million haircut for Joshua. As a UK citizen, Joshua still faced HMRC. Even with tax credits, the accounting battle was nearly as fierce as the ring. Meanwhile, Paul's $92 million was a massive jump from the $40 million he reportedly made fighting Mike Tyson. But money can't buy a new jaw. The legacy and compliance. Joshua didn't just win a fight, he destroyed an event. He reminded the world that while influencer boxing is a spectacle, the sweet science has a floor that cannot be skipped through marketing. Paul, despite the loss, proved he possessed heart. He went 6 rounds with a Titan, but he also demonstrated the terrifying peril of this sport. He is now facing a liquid diet for the foreseeable future. The cliffhanger ending. So, is the problem child era over? Most think so. With a broken jaw and a dejected team, the road back to the ring looks impossible. However, we have just uncovered something the promoters don't want you to see yet. While Paul was in the emergency room, his manager, Nikisa Bidarian, was spotted meeting with a representative from a completely different combat sports organization. There are rumors of a contract of redemption, not in a boxing ring, but in a setting that would make the Joshua fight look like a warm-up. If these documents are real, Jake Paul isn't retiring. He's just changing the game again. We're investigating the leaked terms as we speak. Make sure you're subscribed and have the bell icon on, because next week we're revealing exactly what Jake Paul signed while he was still under anesthesia. This is Primetime Game Time, and this was Judgment Day. Smash subscribe to join the tribe. Let's go.